Welcome back to Manufacturing Talks. I'm Jim Vanoski, your host. And look here, we're back in front of the wall of metal. Why? Because we're talking gears today, and it seemed fitting. We've got Matt Croson. He's the president of the American Gear Manufacturers Association, AGMA, and he's going to tell us all about what they do and who they are and all that fun stuff. Stay tuned. Hear all about it here on Manufacturing Talks.
Welcome to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vanoski. Industry has a million cool stories, and Jim talks to the movers and shakers who are making them happen. Let's dive in.
PYS Media, your digital media relations agency. Public relations, website design, digital marketing. You get found by the customers and talent who need your solutions. You get media placements in top publications, the best job candidates coming to your website, a digital presence that gets you found by the right people. Call 616-298-8798 to get started today.
Okay, welcome back to Manufacturing Talks. I'm Jim Vanoski, your host, and thanks, as always, to our sponsor, DYS Media. Great show today. We are joined by the American Gear Manufacturers Association, specifically Matt Croson. He's the president over there. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, Jim. Thanks so much for having me, and congratulations on your 50th podcast.
Thank you. Thank
cool,
you. Yeah, it's hard to believe. Time flies when you're having fun, and this is always fun. And today's going to be
exactly
no different.
What it is. Yeah. I also love your back wall. Perfect timing for us. We're talking gears, and you got the heavy metal back there, and that's what we're all about.
Yep. I haven't used that background in a while, and we were trading some notes beforehand, and it just occurred to me. Very fitting. So let's move back in front of that one for this show.
Great. Honored to be with you. Honored to be with you.
Well, let's start off. Just tell us about yourself, how you got into this, what your background is, all that stuff.
Jim, come on. Everybody grows up wanting to be in the gear industry, right?
Right.
I mean, come on, it is an interesting thing. At the end of the day, to summarize it quickly, I could write a sentence and put together some communications, and so I was an English major in college and started to do public relations and different things coming out of college. And I got into the association business actually when my daughter was brand new born. She was a newborn, so 25 years ago. And that's how I mark my time in the industry.
Right.
And at that time, I was a director of communications for Packaging Machinery Manufacturers Institute. I stayed there for 12 years and learned a lot with meetings and membership and communications and IT and anything my boss didn't want to do. He kind of said, hey, could you handle that? And then I had been there enough time. I left as a vice president and I went to become the president of the Adhesive and Sealant Council. And so by then at PMMI, I had spent time in the boardroom, understood strategy, understood presenting strategy, and talking to boards about where we're trying to take an organization. And I was able to get the top job at ASC, where I spent 6 years focused on chemicals, chemistry, glue, and caulk, and everything centered around that. And at that time, I was really enjoying the process and being kind of a leader and working with very large organizations to kind of move things forward. But I really, really missed the manufacturing community. And by that, I mean the folks that bent metal and really, really made things. A lot of them are family-owned businesses. They have a unique culture. They have a wonderful place in the world, but also in American kind of industrial history. And this job came up. It was in the 100th year. They wanted to hire a new person because the person, wonderful man who'd been there for 25 years, was retiring. And I put my hat in and got lucky enough to get this job. So for the past 7 years, I've led a team of 20 people who are part of the American Gear Manufacturers Association staff, working with a 17-member board, trying to drive the organization into the future. And it's very important to highlight that it is a 107-year-old organization. And that's pretty cool to kind of have that history behind you, but then also a future orientation.
Yeah, that's very cool. Probably not a surprise. Everyone think about gears. They've been around for quite a while. But yeah, you don't really put two and two together till you hear that the outfit's been around for that long.
Yeah.
So let's drill into it a little. I think we're all somewhat familiar, at least those of us who go to like trade shows and things, with these kinds of trade organizations. But tell us more about the details of what you guys do for your membership.
Sure. Yeah. So, as I said, AGMA was created in 1916, and really what the reason it started and kind of the historical legacy of the organization that exists to this day is standards development. And at that time, as you'll recall, and everyone will recall, cars were pretty new, and the Fords of the world were starting to come out with having challenges with some of the products that were coming to market, because we were all over the place in terms of torque ratios and the different kind of metallurgical properties that were being able to be produced. And they basically said, hey, if you want to work with us, we need to standardize the quality. We need to standardize the some of the technical principles of the gear. And that's really what formed AGMA. 9 different companies got together. They said, hey, let's start collaborating. Let's work on an annual meeting every year, and let's start doing standards, just like other organizations. And to this day, we have more than 400 members actively involved across 26 committees, promulgating 54 standards and 30 some odd information sheets that guide the minimum performance standards for everything imaginable. Torque ratios for aerospace, for the auto industry, NVH, noise, vibration, standards, you name it. We define the standards for the industry to then leverage in the marketplace so that they can demonstrate to their customer that, hey, if you buy from us, it's going to meet this quality level. And then they deliver on other things in the marketplace, like price and delivery and all those kinds of things.
Okay. And then
now, you're 107 years old, and you can't be doing one thing for 107 years and be relevant. And that's what's happened over the few years. And that's what's exciting about the organization. So, 50 years ago, we started to add education to our portfolio. We have 24 classes now that teach engineers the full gamut of anything having to do with manufacturing. And then we wanted to put together a trade show and then highlight some of the emerging exciting things that are happening. So we have that. Let's see here. 3 years ago, we purchased 2 magazines and a website, and now we're a publishing house. And so, from standards to meetings and to the education and everything in between, we are delivering value across the enterprise, whether you're a CEO, an engineer, or an up-and-coming developing leader.
Yep.
And importantly, to stay in the future, 6 years ago or 7 years now, we started focusing on emerging technology. And so again, not staying and resting on our heels, we're looking at additive manufacturing, we're looking at robotics, we're looking at IoT, the Internet of Things, the industrial Internet of Things, and also, of course, EV. Electric vehicles, which everyone's talking about. But so it's a nice example of, legacy, history, and then responding to industry needs, and then driving forward into the future with emerging technology.
Yep. Now, I also saw you're affiliated with the American Bearing Manufacturers Association as well, right?
That is absolutely true. Our vision is to be AGMA and its members drive power transmission innovation. Mm-hmm. And that was an important change that we made in 2016 because it recognized power transmission in all its forms. And bearings and gears, they fit together. You pretty much can't have a gearing system without bearings. Yep. And so when the bearings group was looking for some partnership with us, we looking to see if we could manage their standards, education, and some of their meetings, we said, absolutely, we would love to collaborate with you. And so for the past 4 years now, we've been tremendous partners, and really, honestly, you can't even tell a difference. AGMA and ABMA is the same; they just have a different focus on some of the meetings in the areas. But the governance is pretty much the same. The staffing is the same, and we're really collaborating in a positive way for kind of the future.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, you touched on this, but I know a lot of people probably think gears and they think kind of old school heavy machinery. big clunking mechanical devices and think, oh, okay, this is becoming passe. But that's not really true, right?
No, it's not. Look, we are definitely a hidden industry. There's no question about it, because we're a component of a bigger piece, right? But when I tell you that we have tolerances to the 1 in 13,000th of an inch, right? Where we have gears on the Mars rover, right? When we have wonderful systems that, there's a reason why your car can travel 400,000 miles now, right? With just keeping up oil. Every gear that goes into a Boeing or Airbus has 85 different inspection tests that occur, because we want to make sure this thing is so wonderfully put together that it doesn't fall apart in critical issues, right?
Yep.
And so, we have critical use applications, very high-tech innovations, dealing, some of the interesting things are like, one of our requirements typically is in military application, right? We have to make a gear that, if it gets shot and all the oil goes, can survive for 20 minutes. So you can get the aircraft out of the zone. These are sophisticated, highly engineered, PhD level sophisticated solutions. And yes, you have to cut gears and you use machinery to do that, but you're always working with the highest level of cleanliness, effectiveness, and efficiencies when you produce that gear. And it's really cool when you start to think about the applications. And I think that's where it is. Everything from popcorn machines to the windows to open up and down, to the when you go through let's say a airport, the cleaning things, all of those have gearing systems, and they range from the tiniest gear up to some of our bigger gears are 50 feet wide. And they're mining gears, and they go slow, and they're drilling 5 miles down to get the ore out or whatever they're mining. It's incredible what wind power, EV, you name kind of water resources, pumps, all has gearing systems that are behind it.
Yeah.
And,
if it's moving,
you couldn't do this without those systems. And that's the thing. It's like you'd be back to pulleys or, I mean, you'd be going back to the 1600s with how you would move things. And so, yeah, it's a very cutting edge industry.
Yeah. And really too broad for you to even fathom. Right. I love a couple things you touched on, though. With an airliner, you're not just building all these very high tolerance, high strength and expectation of lifespan gears for the jet engine. You're also building the gears that seal the airliner door.
Oh, the door, how do you get your tires up and down, right? Landing gear, right? Internally, anything that moves, is going to have systems. The luggage, the jet.
On the other one you touched on that kind of people don't think about the progress and what you said about cars. I mean, when I was a kid, if you got 100,000 miles out of a car, it was a miracle. And now, if you didn't get 250, it's like, man, I got gypped.
I mean, it's now a marketing part of certain things. So 250,000, the Ford 150s, the Subarus, they've gone around the world, kind of thing. And that's us. That's the quiet little group that's so highly engineered that you don't have to worry about these things like you used to. And the other thing about it is that it's a collaboration. It is truly, when you engineer things, yes, you have inventors and innovators, and of course they're cutting, breaking ground. But generally, this is a very collaborative industry that wants science behind it. Its decisions. It wants to, testing is critical. As I said, 85 different tests that go through one gear that goes to a Boeing product line. So that's another thing that attracted me to the industry is that to say it, the industry attracts a person that is honest.
Sure.
Yep. I'll just say that in the way that you have to prove that it works, and you cannot lie about it.
Yeah.
Either it moves this fast and it has the torque ratio that you need, or it does not.
Yeah.
And so that leads to people that are truly focused on solving something and not just promoting things.
Yeah.
And
it's funny you say that. It's the distilled essence of something I say about manufacturing more broadly.
Mhm.
And I always put it as, you can't hide. You're either making stuff that people want, and in your case, you're making a gear that works and lasts the way your user intends it to do, or
right.
you're not. And if you're not, you're out of business.
This is absolutely the case. And so that ethos, that philosophy is found throughout our family-owned business and even in the corporate level.
Mm-hmm.
And really the only difference is volume, right? And maybe some level of sophistication because
Right.
of the CapEx required to kind of make a gear that goes to the moon.
Right. Yes. It
Not
doesn't give you
everybody
any
can do it.
surprises when it gets there.
Yeah.
So that being said, with all these changes and with the new demands, what are the big challenges that the AGMA is kind of facing down these days?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's a couple different ways to take a look at this. One challenge that I think everybody has is people. Okay.
Yes.
And Jim, you've talked to so many manufacturers. You know that's usually issue number 1, 2, or 3.
All three.
Yeah. I just got back from Italy for work. I was able to tour kind of the Bologna area where
I saw your LinkedIn post from over there.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, hundreds of gear companies there, which is also interesting. But they had the same problem that we have. It doesn't matter where you go, Germany, Italy, United States, manufacturing is needing people in manufacturing is an issue. Now, I feel like and the way I talked about it in Italy was, I think we benefit on one end with the engineers. We actually have pretty good engineers drawn to the industry,
Mm-hmm.
and we need people, of course. We want to highlight them, of course, but we feel pretty comfortable with the engineers that are coming out and being drawn to industry because, again, we're doing pretty cool things for some neat companies, and even though the broader consumer world doesn't know it, the engineering world does, right? Because it really is key there. Our real issue, and I think everyone's issue, is operators, folks
Mm-hmm.
that are on the floor working with the equipment, the grinders, the hobbing equipment, the different pieces of equipment that are required to get a gear produced. And that's where we're really struggling hard. And as an association, we can't hire people, right? We don't hire them. So,
Mm-hmm.
what we did as an association is gave our members tools for them to hire. And it's called Get Into Gears. It's a simple phrase. And we worked with our AGMA Foundation to create this. And we put together PowerPoints, video, ads, social media ads, print ads, brochures, a ton of collateral materials that a member can grab for free, and industry can grab for free, download it. All they have to do is then put in their logo, maybe change some of the language, add a few slides about their company, their benefits, and what else they do specifically for the industry. But we have found that almost half of our members, 425 or so, have pulled that information down and are starting to use it. And over the past 3 or 4 years, have taken that to market, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I see our role, is to try to promote the industry, give the members tools to promote the industry. And then, after that, they have to have a good salary. They have to have good benefits and all that kind of stuff, which we can't control. But, we feel pretty good about their efforts to kind of get the word out. And we're going to get our share. But it's definitely a battle. Yeah.
You'd mentioned education earlier. I have to expect that's a piece of what you're kind of evaluating now around
Jim,
what the needs are.
The way I talk about it, and I said this to the board, is I feel that HMA is almost operating like a technical community college, right?
Mm-hmm.
That when you come out of school with a mechanical engineering degree, you know a lot about mechanical engineering, but you might have taken one class on power transmission.
Right.
Well, over the 50 years of producing classes, we feel comfortable, we can walk side by side with you for 10 years into your career. So every year, if you take 2 or 3 of our classes, you're going to get better at design. You're going to get better at gear failure analysis. You're going to get better at inspection. You're going to get better at all the things that you need to be good at to make a gear. And that's a nice role. So we can bear those costs to develop the new classes so that every member doesn't have to have their own, interpretation of gearing and all the different classes we have.
Yep.
And we're now going to finish by the end of the year. We're going to have 3 new classes on EV design.
Yep.
It'll touch on design, NVH, and then how the bearings and the gear systems kind of work together. And it should be, again, another example of us, wanting to stay relevant over the next 15 to 20 years. And then, so by having new programs that add value.
You gotta handle a lot more torque with those EVs. So
you do, and that's the thing. In fact, one of the things that's a great insight. So we have the definition of torque ratios for the auto industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this fall at our MPT Expo, Motion and Power Transmission Expo, we feel that the market has developed enough that we want to hold what we're calling the HMA Electric Vehicle Technology Town Hall at our meeting.
Yep.
And what we're going to be asking the industry is, hey, is it time to take the torque ratio standard that we have for auto and add a few pages on EV? Because you're right, you're going up to 27,000, 30,000 RPM, and that hasn't quite been defined yet in terms of what are the minimum performance requirements. And HMA doesn't create standards. The industry does. What we do is promulgate and follow the process. So we need industry to step up to give us testing and information about the performance. And it'll be interesting. We stand ready to make any adjustments that the industry is ready for. And this town hall will be an open opportunity for dialogue, debate. And I love that. It's a spirited debate. And at the end of the day, if the industry is not ready to share, okay, there will be a delta when the customer says, we want this, standardized.
Yep.
We think it's about now that it's developed. So we're going to have this town hall to see if it can happen. And that's excellent. A good role for us with that show. Our show is such an interesting event. When you've been to so many trade shows, some of the shows, hundreds of thousands of people, and they're all over the place relative to technology. And for our show, it's 4,000 people tops. Yep. And you don't go to the show by accident. I mean, it's a niche on a niche. And what's wonderful about that is, we don't need volume. Some of our exhibitors get 1 or 2 sales out of this show, and it might take them 6 months to a year because it's a highly engineered product. So we're not like other trade shows that measure the success of the show by 50,000 leads or 150 qualified meetars. Ours is a lot more focused, and I think that's a really neat niche. For our organization.
Well, you touched on EVs, and obviously that's a big opportunity. What else are you seeing out in the future that you think is coming opportunity for your members and your organization?
Okay, so maybe 3 things. 2 things definitely. Another part of our show is the International Power Transmission Summit. We're inviting CEOs to get together to talk about what I'm about to bring up, and some of it's cybersecurity.
Sure.
With the interconnectedness and the IoT of things, right? The Internet of Things, the industrial Internet of Things. We've been paying attention to how machines talk to each other, how they interrelate, the HMI, the human machine interface. All of these things can kind of start to roll into having to have a shield and protection so that you can't be attacked and shut down your production or cause damage to a production. So we're going to be examining that because we do feel like that's a challenge, not only from the phishing and the normal things that you hear about in the marketplace with fraud and things like this, but more importantly, at a bigger level, production levels of how we we operate.
Yep.
Additive is another major thing. Additive manufacturing is a huge opportunity. And for those that are new, you cut gears or you subtract from a piece of metal to make a gear. With additive, what you're doing is filling layers using some kind of binding agent, a glue, if you will, to create a gear from the ground up, so to speak. We have been so involved in this that now when we go to a trade show like Rapid, which is focused on additive manufacturing, we don't just we invite members to come with us to the show, but we don't just go around. What we do is do a curated show and a curated tour of 13 different companies that we know are making gears or trying to make gears with additive. So it's an example of how we try to take an abstract emerging technology and bring it right down to some solution set.
Yeah.
Well, we think with the International Power Transmission Summit, we're going to be able to talk and listen to some experts in that area and see where things might be going as it relates to all these things. The other thing, the final thing really that one of the final things that we're going to be talking about is automation. And that's the other thing, Jim, like when we talk about people, I think a quiet reality, and I see it very much in Europe, is that if we can't attract people to serve as operators, we're going to need to link the machinery using conveyors, robotic pick and place, and other means to kind of automate the process of gear manufacturing. And we really do see that tremendously. And so we want to stay in that arena as well to make sure that our smaller, big companies get this. They're operating at a higher volume level, and they pretty much are fully automated. But smaller shops that are open gear houses, we call them, folks that make batches of 50 or batches of 1,000, they often don't need fully automated systems to just move 50 gears through a system. However, we think with cobots and some of the new ways that you can quickly modify the pick and place machinery that the robotics can supply, we feel there's an opportunity to invest in some CapEx to kind of make sure you can keep producing, even if you don't find all the people. So it'll be an interesting summit, where we're going to talk about, another macro trend that's impacting us is mergers and acquisitions. And we're trying to get a handle. Right now, we have half of our membership, let's say, are family-owned companies that might be up to 100 million. And they really run from 1 million to 100 million. That's a vast difference just in the small business. But the other half of our industry are multi-billion companies, 3.7 billion for Timken, and we have Regal, Rexnord, Altria, multi-billion-dollar companies. And our association needs to fulfill support for both those sides. This summit is going to allow us to come together as global leaders all under one industry and talk candidly about what are the challenges we're facing. And then out of this, what we hope to kind of glean are ways that AGMA could kind of sit in there and help. And so between the EV, which is an emerging technology, and the standard which touches our legacy past, and then the International Power Transmission Summit, it speaks to the past going into the future, and then the future going into the future. And I like how we're positioned to be able to support everything.
That's good. Boredom will not be a problem.
No, and it's important too. Our vision, as I said earlier, AGMA and its members drive power transmission innovation. That conjunction "and" is really important. As an English major, right? It's AGMA and its members. We work together on this.
Right. It's
not an either or. Some associations and some members, unfortunately, kind of do that. You got to do this, and it's a we do this, you do that. We're industry, you run the program. And that's, I understand it, it's a very simple, linear maybe, or vertical, understanding. But I like the collaborative vision that we have in that we're working on this together. And I always say the funny thing to staff, I say, I promise we're going to get you to the next year. The organization is trying to develop for the next 50 years. And so some of our tactics are for now. Some of these like additive and IoT and some of the future oriented that we're trying to get going are for the next 50 years. And it is fun and interesting to kind of keep up with all that.
Sounds very cool. Is there anything we haven't touched on folks out there ought to know?
No, I really honestly check us out. I mean,
Yep.
go to agma.org, visit our websites. We have the magazine, if you really are, geartechnology.com, powertransmissionengineering.com, motionandpowerexpo.com. All of these places can give, simple Google search can pull up these things. And if you're remotely interested in it, subscribe to our magazine, find out some more about what we're doing. We're an open group, and we would love to have members. We would love to have industry collaborate, and we're here for you. We've been here for 107 years. Hopefully we'll be there for another 100. And, thanks for the time, Jim. It's been fun to just talk a little bit about what we're up to.
Well, glad you did. And I wouldn't be doing my part if I didn't point out there's also that Forbes article that I wrote about you guys here a few months ago. So
Jim, again, it's been a good collaboration again on that front, because we are trying to get the word about and Jim, we're proud to have you live podcasting from our show.
That was what I was going to wrap with. Yeah.
I mean, you're going to meet other people.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. I like the smaller shows like that. Like you say, that's much more focused and to me, much more personal and meaningful. So
Jim,
I'm really looking forward to the show.
I find the show, like if you go to a big show, you might spend 5 minutes real quickly,
Right.
Go, hey, here's my card. Oh, that's good. Call me, we'll connect afterwards.
Yep.
At our show, you have 30 to 45-minute conversations just to get going. And it's really a sit down, collaborate, let's talk in depth. And then, obviously you do have follow-up. You have lots of different variables you got to figure out. But right. I do feel you'll enjoy it. And it'll be good to have you.
And as you say, live streaming from there. So folks, be on the lookout as we head into fall. I'll be playing that up, and you can tune in for that live stream come October.
Jim, thanks for everything that you do to promote manufacturing broadly. It's important. I see your posts. I see your philosophy. I see your positive energy. It's really needed. You have to have the more groups that people that are talking about it. The easier it is for other associations to kind of get the word out about what we're doing. So thanks very much for doing everything you do, because it's really important.
Well, I really appreciate that, Matt, and I appreciate you coming on today. It was a great show.
Right on. Take care.
All right. Thanks, you,
everybody. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thanks to all of you out there. We're here every week. And so tune in for the next one. And, they can't all be as interesting as what Matt talked about, but they're going to be interesting. So tune in every Tuesday.
You're on.
Right. So long.
Thanks for tuning in to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinosky. Watch for new episodes dropping every Tuesday. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.